figuring out what you want is like step number one in creating a life that you actually enjoy and you actually like. In this video, I want to talk about my favorite exercises that I've ever done to figure out what I actually want and design a life that I enjoy. Starting with number one, the evidence audit. I can remember one of the first times that I did a life planning exercise and I was like, you know what's important to me? Health and wellness. That's what I really want to prioritize. That is what I want. And meanwhile, if you actually looked at my life, hadn't exercised in weeks, wasn't meal prepping in any way, I didn't want more health and wellness. I wanted to want more health and wellness. When there's something that you actually want, there will be evidence of that in your life. And this is such an important distinction to make when you are figuring out what you want. It is so much easier to get what you really want versus to get what you want to want. Which is why when you're figuring out what you want to start with an evidence audit. Look at what you already do, what you already spend time on, what you already pay attention to figure out what you want. I like some of John Demartini's value questions. So for example, what do you currently spend your extra money on? What are you surrounded by in your home? You know, what's on display? What feels easy to spend time and energy on for you? That is such good data to figure out what you actually want. And when you want something, there will be evidence in your life. Before I saw values in this way as something that already exists, that you already have innately in you, I lied to myself about what was important to me. I used to be like, you know, beauty aesthetics, that is not important to me. I'm a very practical girl. And then I looked around at what my life said and I was like, okay, what am I spending my time on? Scrolling through Pinterest. What am I spending my money on? Nice home decor. And I was like, ooh, actually, I am someone that needs things to be practical and I love beautiful, light and airy spaces and things that look pretty. And that's something I value and I need to plan for. Your life, if you just look around, gives you so many clues as to what you value and what is important to you, but you just need to pay attention and you need to accept what you see, even if it's not what you expected or maybe wanted. You might say that you value adventure, but all of your money goes towards home projects. That says something. Maybe you say you want to start a business, but all of your time is spent gaming. Maybe you say that you want a promotion, but all of your time is spent dreaming up new business ideas. If you start looking for evidence in your own life, it becomes easy to see what it is that you want more of. To do an evidence audit, just pay attention to where your time, energy, and money is spent. And be self-aware, pay attention to when you say that something is important to you and yet it never happens in your life. The less you lie to yourself about what is actually important to you, the easier it is to get what you want. So now let's talk idea number two, the yes but map. Maybe you want to get rich, but you don't want to work 60-hour work weeks. You want to be healthy, but you actually don't really want to spend that much time thinking about food. When you have a want that competes with a don't want, immediately it creates friction and it makes it harder to get what you want. Because part of you wants to move forward and another part of you is slamming on the brakes because it's going, actually, there's parts of that I do not want at all. But when you bring those don't wants out into the open, you can start solving for them. I like a little exercise called the yes but map. Step number one, write down the yes. Yes, I want to clean and tidy home every day. Yes, I want to be a writer. Yes, I want to be the type of person that owns a yacht. Step number two, write down the buts. So for example, yes, I want a big, beautiful house, but I don't want to be so in debt that I can barely afford to enjoy my life. Step number three, flip your buts into wants. Behind every but is a desire. Love this wording. Didn't think about it beforehand. For example, I don't want to be so in debt that I can't enjoy my life turns into, I want a big deposit on my house so that my mortgage feels manageable. And then step number four, ask, how do I get all of the things that I want here? And you might think of ideas straight away, right? Like you could do a little journaling session using that framework and be like, oh, immediately I know how to get everything that I want. I know how to accommodate all of my buts, etc. But also you could go on a walk in 6 months' time and randomly have a solution come to you. But that only happened because you put all of your don't wants and wants out into the open, which moves us to the next idea, the life swap test. Kind of like how you might try on clothes to figure out what outfit you want to wear, try on other people's lives to figure out what life you want to live. I'm going to share with you a quick thought exercise that I love. I would actually love to hear what 3 people you come up with from this exercise in the comments. Imagine I am the queen of the world and I say that you need to swap lives with 3 people. You got to pick 3 people. You'll still be you, but you will be spending your time in the way that those people spend their time. Their daily tasks will be your daily tasks. This is a question from Susie Welch and I love it because it forces you to be so honest about what you really want to do. You might think that you want your favorite influencer's life, but when you look at their daily tasks, the fact that they have to take photos of literally everything that they do, you might be like, actually, sounds miserable. I don't want to do that. You might want to be a founder, but actually you don't want to spend your life in back-to-back meetings. You don't want to be in charge of hiring. You don't really want to do fundraising. So focus less on the person's highlight reel, like how good their life looks externally, and focus more on their day to day. Who do you want to swap lives with that has days filled with stuff that you'd find invigorating, energizing, and fun? And based on the 3 people you choose, look at what they have in common. Like what's the commonality here? What is it about their lives that really draws you to them? For example, I chose Ryan Holiday. Has a chill podcast, writes books. V.E. Schwab writes books, has a chill podcast. Michelle Seeger, a researcher, writes books, newsletters, coaches people to embrace flexible thinking. That is the kind of life I want to live, and I kind of am living that life. I just need to make a few adjustments. However, I used to think that I was aspiring to be an Ali Abdaal level YouTube creator, like millions of followers, a whole team behind me. Obviously, Ali Abdaal is living his absolute best life and loves it. But also the idea of my life being filled with meetings, managing other people, also moving around a lot. His best life, what his days look like, is so far from what I want my days to look like. But how beautiful to discover that early on, rather than wake up in 5 years with a panic attack every single morning and being like, oh God, I've built a brick by brick a life that is miserable. The next idea is the decision filter. Instead of thinking, what do I want in my life? Such a big, broad question. Start thinking in terms of, what do I want my days to look like? How you spend your days is how you spend your life. So use everything that I'm talking about in this video and write down morning to night how you would like to be spending your time. And this can be vague. It doesn't have to be specific. As long as you have a general sense of how you'd like your days to be spent, the details can sort themselves out later. Maybe you have a sense that you want to spend a good chunk of your days creating things with your hands. Maybe you want to spend a portion of your days writing. Maybe you know that you want to help other people to solve their problems. You don't know what you're going to be creating, but you just have the sense that that would make you happy, and you have no idea what you want to write. You just know that you love the feeling of curiosity, excitement, and interest that you get when you write. You don't know what problems you're going to help them to solve, but you love that feeling of solving someone else's problem. That would be a really beautiful way for you to be spending your time on a daily basis. Put that in your perfect day. This ideal day should be based on the kind of day you want to have, not the kind of day that you'd love other people to see you having, or a day filled with things that you feel like you probably should be focusing your attention and energy on. Instead, look at things like your values, your 3 people, your yes but map, and design your day based on that. And once you have an ideal reality, that leads to the next idea, which is less about figuring out what you want and more about moving you towards what you want, using your ideal reality as a decision filter. I love this idea from the author of Rigging the Game. Prioritize closer over more. Every action that you take should be about you getting closer to your ideal day. It shouldn't be about getting you more clients, more projects, more money, more anything. If it doesn't get you closer to your ideal day, it's not what you want. A more mentality over a closer mentality is what will get you to age 50, saying, oh, I've built a life that I hate. How do I burn this all down? And if you are age 50, thank you for being here. So when you get offered a job or a promotion, ask yourself, will this get me closer to my ideal reality? Or at the very least, is this a stepping stone towards my ideal reality? Can I use this in some way to help me to get closer to my ideal reality? And don't follow through on anything that can't be used at the very least as a stepping stone. The more that you make decisions that get you closer to your ideal reality, the closer you get to what you want. The details will sort themselves out later, but in the end, you'll be living your ideal reality. Which leads to the next idea, which is maybe more helpful if you're early on in your journey. Learning whether you like the game. Sometimes the only way that you can figure out that you don't like basketball is to play basketball. I read either a tweet or an email the other day that talked about how some people really think that they like basketball, but what they like is dribbling. A lot of choices that we make are less about committing to one thing and more about testing things out. If you truly are in a place where you're like, well, I don't know what I want, that just means that you need to play more basketball, or you just need to play more games in life and figure out whether you like the game. You don't need to commit to any games. You just need to try more and suss out what you like and what you don't. I'm so grateful for past jobs that I didn't like, because I never would have known that I didn't like those jobs had I not done them. I have a few more really good exercises to do to figure out what you want in my last video. I made it quite a while ago, but it's relevant to this day. Some people still message me and they're like, hey, I do these exercises every single year. So I'm going to have that video on the screen as well as down below. I appreciate you so much, and I'll see you soon.